There's no better feeling than a personal win. And the State Farm Personal Price Plan can help you do just that. Talk to a State Farm agent today to learn how you can bundle and save with the Personal Price Plan. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state.
Everything you learned in history class was a lie. Well, maybe not everything, but they skipped the best parts. Introducing Stupiracy, where stupidity meets conspiracy. Ever heard of the Olympic marathon that nearly killed its runners? Or the time a pope put another pope's corpse on trial? Join me, Scott Rizzuto, and Tim McKernan as we uncover the most outrageous historical moments and mind-blowing conspiracies you won't believe actually happened. Tune into Stupiracy for your weekly dose of historical absurdity. Available wherever you get your podcasts. Remember, history is dumb, but laughing at it is smart.
All right, there are a lot of smells out there that are, obviously repulsive and gag influencing. For me, one of the weirdest ones is ketchup. Not fresh.
Really?
No, not fresh ketchup. Because I love ketchup on, most meats, burgers, dogs, fries, all that stuff. But if it's been left out for a while or it's in the trash, there's something rancid, at least to me, about stale and fermenting ketchup. Okay, so I come into the station today. This is Brian Murphy of the Pioneer Press and TwinCities.com filling in for Reusse on the ride here at Sports Talk. Glad to be back, guys. I go into the prep room. And I can't get the smell of stale fermenting ketchup out of. I just can't understand where it's coming from. I checked both garbage cans. No evidence of ketchup. I thought maybe, Manny, you had been chowing on something that had ketchup. I could not find any evidence of ketchup in the entire room. So about 10 minutes ago, I go to the bathroom just to get my pre-show work in, and I look in the mirror, and what do I see? A glob of ketchup is on my shirt. About 5 inches below my mouth and nose. I had fries for lunch at about 12:30. So that had been sitting there on my shirt, fermenting for almost 2 hours, and I had no idea.
When you walked by, nobody.
You saw me? Did you say anything?
I didn't see it.
I mean, it was dead center.
I didn't see it.
Dead center.
I didn't see it.
But I'm glad I at least got to solve the mystery, because there's something creepy and I don't know. I just gag at the smell of fermenting ketchup, and it was me all along, and it was right in front of me.
Following you along.
I sympathize, because this happened to me just a couple of weeks ago. I pulled into a Holiday to put some air in my tire. One of my back right tire was running a little bit low, so I just wanted to put a little air in it. I had ran over like a ketchup and mustard packet of some sort that was on the ground, because I looked at my tire and I could see like ketchup and mustard just kind of like splattered all over the tire. Not a lot, but just, kind of splattered on a specific spot. And it reeked.
You throw
reeked.
mustard in there.
It was really, really, really potent. And it's like one packet of ketchup, one packet of mustard, and I could smell it from 5-6 feet away from my car. I could smell it like it was a powerful aroma.
Yeah, right. There's just something about it that just kind of gets under your skin a little bit. And like I said, I'm a huge.
And you mix that in with
mustard,
with rubber, with a rubber tire and
on a
hot day and a burning engine, like not literally burning engine, but you know what I mean, a warm engine on a vehicle.
Yeah, that's a big stew
it's
right
pretty,
there.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. So I understand what you're saying.
No, but I love ketchup. I mean, I put it on burgers, and then sometimes even though I put it on there, I'll dip it.
Yeah.
In a pile. And then, of course, with fries, you got to do it with fries. I do it with hot dogs and mustard. I know that's sacrilegious, because most people say you should only put mustard on a hot dog, otherwise it's un-American. But I mix ketchup in with that. I'm not anti-ketchup. I'm anti-old ketchup. I'm anti-leftover ketchup. I'm anti-trashed ketchup or fermenting ketchup.
I only do ketchup on a burger or a hot dog.
What's odd is you don't like the fermented smell, but you do enjoy the actual flavor.
Yeah, it's a fine condiment.
That's weird.
But I don't know if it's because as soon as it's been out for a while, it starts, maybe like beer a little bit. I mean, Chris, you would be the resident expert on that.
I'm trying to think
if
Yeah,
as beer sits out a little bit long, maybe in a warm weather.
Not a problem with
No,
me.
not you. You'll wring out the bar rag if you have to, won't you?
No, I'm just saying it usually doesn't sit out too long.
Oh, I see.
That's my point.
Stale beer is an awful smell, like the day after a party.
You know, the one that will get me, and I was home yesterday, so I was doing some yard work, but I'll find this if I'm mowing my lawn or if I pump gas, if it gets on like my shoes. Have you guys ever had that? That's the overwhelming, because then you're in the car by yourself and you're like, oh boy, I gotta roll the windows down and let her air out a little bit. But I love the smell of diesel fuel.
I kind of like that too. Yeah, I like the smell of gasoline. A good spillage at the pump.
Because I have the only child in America that does not like ketchup. My 3-year-old son will not eat it.
Really?
If it's anywhere even remotely close to his plate, he won't touch food. I don't know why. If he doesn't really grasp the concept, I have no idea, but I have the only kid in the country that does not like ketchup.
I mean, my kids love it, and they'll put it on anything.
Right.
Chicken.
Yes.
Judd
does that, too.
I've caught my... Oh, that's bad for an adult. That's just ridiculous.
Well, he's the largest child we all know.
Yeah, good point. But I caught my daughter one time dipping her, like, raw vegetables in it.
Oh!
After scooping up her nuggets in it. Which
Kids
I
and
think
ketchup go hand in hand, yes.
In fact, my daughter, when she was it was when... My daughter's 8, and she's going to be 9 in August. My son's 7.5. When he was born, we had friends over watching my daughter, who had been 1.5 years at the time, while we were in the hospital. And she used to call ketchup dip, at that time, because that's all she knew. It was just dip. I dip my food in dip. Well, we had friends over, and they cooked nuggets or whatever they cooked for her that night. And she kept sitting there in the high chair demanding dip. And they couldn't figure out what do you mean dip? Like chip dip? No, the dip. I think they might even brought the like French onion dip out. Sure. Like, is this what no, she dipped. Finally, they took her out of the seat. She walked in, opened the refrigerator, and pointed to the ketchup. She pointed to the ketchup. Dip. Yeah. That's my dip. Now she's, again, almost 9, and, she would actually just lick it off the plate if we let her. It's just, I don't know. Ketchup belongs on mostly red meat. Not steak, of course.
Not chicken either.
That's not red meat. That's white meat. Yeah, it shouldn't be anywhere near white meat.
But kids they kind of formulate, as you well know, being a dad, they formulate their own rules with just about everything. And I love going through almost the innocence of how they're exploring certain things. Case in point, with your daughter, you just smelled your shirt.
Because it's still there.
Watched you smell your
shirt. It's still there. I wiped it off, but I still caught a whiff of it. I just caught a whiff of it right now. It's still there. I'm going to be in this prison for the next 3 hours.
I was going to say, what are you going to do till 6 o'clock?
I
may just take it off.
You're going to run that shirt through the washer like 3 times, aren't you?
I'm going to fumigate it is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to hang it out on the clothesline for some fresh air. Or I may reveal my man boobs just like Reusse, or should I not do that?
Oh, my God.
It makes good radio, does it not?
So I'm disappointed because I know we're going to talk to the young man later in the program here, but I was like the last person to find out that, because I had the last 2 days off, and the beauty of doing that, you can unplug. You don't have to be on social media. You don't have to pay attention to anything. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
I had no idea he was
in the summer.
I had no idea he was taking the train to Chicago. What a dummy.
I'm on the train.
Oh, I didn't know he took the train.
Yes.
Yeah, he took the train.
Yeah.
Did you guys talk to him yesterday?
Well,
I was here yesterday. Yeah, he was
doing the show yesterday, but he decided that instead of driving to Chicago to take in Cubs and Twins, that he and the bride were going to take the choo-choo.
Isn't it like 11 hours or something?
And he has already admitted, I think about 45 minutes in, that this was the worst decision he has ever made.
Well, good. We'll get the recap now because he's already there. I thought when you said he's riding the train, I'm thinking the L.
No. And I was going to go, the reason I had the last couple of days off is I was going to take the boys to the first game at Guaranteed Rate Field. Because
that's what it's called now?
That's what we call
Comiskey.
it. But the weather forecast didn't cooperate, so I didn't want to spend 6.5 hours each way to wait out a rainstorm for a night baseball game with boys ages 6 and 3.
So we ended up bring him to Wrigley eventually?
No. Well, my oldest son and I went to Wrigley last summer.
Okay.
But the 3-year-old, he doesn't really have the attention span for that. So this was going to be the first boys trip with Dad, but we decided to stay home because you can't wait out the weather. It's you're at the mercy of that. So anyway.
Yeah. Well, we'll check in with Reusse, I think at about 4:40 on his trip to Chicago and what he has in store for his Wrigley Field visit tomorrow, I believe. We'll also have Derek Wetmore at 4:15 talking Twins, who I think are still scoreless if I turn around.
Yep, 0-0.
0-0 in the
Top of the
7th.
seventh.
At guaranteed rate, financial, blah, blah, blah.
That
field.
hot-hitting Logan Morrison at the plate right now.
Is he going to crack 190 with this at-bat?
He has been an utter and complete disaster.
They're lucky they only got him for 1 year. And then finally, Courtney Cronin of ESPN.com at 5:15. She'll talk a little bit more about Daniil Hunter's deal and maybe some intrigue with the Vikings. We're only 4 weeks out from training camp. Can't talk enough NFL at all. This is Murphy in for Reusse here on 1500 ESPN. Did you do Detroit Rock City just for me?
Absolutely.
Oh, I love you, Reeves. Thank you. It's been so long since I've been here.
It has been a while. Well, you've done some stuff with Mackie and Judd.
Yeah,
though,
I've been doing some morning
here.
stuff here, but I haven't been on in the afternoon in a while, so it's that time of year where everybody's bailing, right?
As the mayor likes to put it, 4th of July weekish. We're light on personnel.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit lighter. I'll be on next Friday, too, the 6th, in for the mayor as well.
Beautiful.
Just a little tease right now.
Beautiful.
Are you guys going to be around next week?
Outside of the 4th, we're here. Me and Manny are the ones that got to work.
Way to grind.
We're dedicated.
I'm going to the Dells with the family.
On the 4th of July?
Not just the 4th, starting Sunday, 4 days. 4 days at the Dells. What am I getting myself into? We're staying at an all-inclusive type place with 4 water parks, but it sounds like there's going to be 5 billion people there.
Yeah, and especially considering the fact that it's going to be hot,
100 degrees.
You're not going to be alone.
Fry.
We're not going to be alone, and the cooler will not be empty. Let's put it that way.
Oh, no, you have to hydrate. That's for sure.
You got to bring some travelers, too.
Yeah.
Did they crack down on that out there?
You know what? We were going to do that we were just talking about this, oddly enough, off the air, but we were going to do that over Christmas break a couple of years ago, some of the indoor ones, because it's in the summer, it's so packed and it's just too much. But we were in it. So I don't know. I don't know how you're shaping up.
Well, it's not only just myself, wife, and 2 kids. It's my in-laws as well. My brother-in-law, sister-in-law, with their 3 children, including a 2-year-old, and the mother-in-law, and the 2 20-year-old younger brothers with no kids. So we've got a crew.
Wow,
we've got ourselves a crew.
You know what you need?
All in one room. No, I'm kidding.
You need a map with a plan. That's what
I am not in
need.
charge.
Okay.
I have deferred. We've got a lot of type A's. Mostly the women, and I am not going to be involved in anything that involves planning, responsibility, or forethought.
Well, I'll put it this way. We were up in Duluth Mother's Day weekend, and I had an event on Saturday, and then Sunday we just kind of spent the day it was a family trip, basically, up to Duluth for the weekend. And we stayed at one of those all-inclusive water park deals in Duluth. And I know, if you're talking about the crackdown, I know that I brought a cooler with me for me and the bride, and nobody said a word to us. I don't know if everybody has the same rules or
did you have open glass? Or did you kind of camouflage it?
No, they were all cans. They were all cans.
Do you have cozies too, just to keep them? You probably didn't on Mother's Day weekend. It was a little average.
I don't think we did.
Are you anti-cozy?
Not at all. No, not at all. Not at all. But I just think that I don't think we brought any with us.
Any solo cups, or you just went straight can?
No, straight can. Yeah, straight can, homie. That's what we did.
Logan Morrison could be your hero today, right? He just went deep.
Yeah.
Off Lucas, what is it, Gigliotti?
Lucas Giolito. One of the prize prospects that they received from Washington in the Adam Eaton trade.
Well, he did no-hit him into the 6th, but right now it's 1-0 Twins. I see a lot of running going on, though, right behind me.
Yeah, we had a base hit. We've got runners at the corners right now.
Yeah, it looks like
they're kicking up their heels. 1 out.
Looks like Garcia had a little bit of a sieve moment there in right field.
What is the shame of this season has perfectly been encapsulated by this particular series.
Yeah, how are you not scoring against the Chicago White Sox?
Well, and the disappointment by losing the first 2 games of this series, it's just deflating because I know Cleveland lost the first game of their series when Kluber was pitching, but
it's 8 games now. It might as well be 15.
It's over.
I agree.
You aren't going to be able, and especially and Cleveland's been awful too. If they get hot,
they're a 10 out of 12 streak away from just putting the Tigers and the Twins in the grave.
Do we not all expect the fire sale to be happening relatively soon?
Thad Levine does. We can get into this with Derek Wetmore in about an hour. But did you see the interview? I should pull it up. He gave a interview to MLB.com where he basically said, and I'm paraphrasing, there comes a point in time where you certainly, you could sit there and hope that, these guys will come back and will catch fire. But at a certain point in time, you've got to acknowledge maybe this is just exactly who we are. And he went on to say, basically, they're probably going to be sellers.
But I also think that was probably the thought that they had last year because they sold at the deadline.
Yeah.
And then they went
team
20-7 in August and got back into contention.
You know what? Maybe that's what they need. They need to sell right now and let the team catch fire
So
again.
they need their front office to turn on them to get motivated. That's the only thing that'll turn these Twins on.
That's right. But
everybody's against us. They can hammer themselves to the cross.
Thanks, Cheryl
and play
Reeve.
the martyr.
Isn't that the quote she had yesterday?
Who?
Cheryl Reeve.
Oh, I didn't see it.
She said something.
Did she martyr herself?
Oh, yeah, because she's the queen of that.
I know. Careful with that.
What do you mean?
She'll take offense to that.
Well, whatever. But she did the whole after the game, like, everybody's doubting us. Well, you guys
You were
were 3-6 or whatever.
Yeah.
I had the hot take. I had the scolding hot take that they would miss the playoffs, but they were 3-6 at the time.
Hey, you want to be scrutinized in the big leagues? That's what happens.
You know what? I'll take credit for getting them going again.
Attaboy, Manny. That's what you do. You motivate.
I said they wouldn't make the playoffs, and they haven't lost since I said that. So,
welcome to the club.
yeah.
Hey, I didn't see the video. I only read about this, but Gene Glenn and Paul Molitor getting tossed. These are the two most mild-mannered guys, certainly on the team.
I was only able to listen because we had a game at the same time that they did last night, so I didn't get to see much of last night's game.
And I looked for highlights. I couldn't find anything.
But from what I gathered, that there was a lot of issues with the home plate umpire. Is that what I'm making?
Well, it was balk related. I think there had been
because they had reversed a call.
They thought there was a balk. I think in the fifth inning that didn't get called, and then in the sixth inning they did call a balk. And then Renteria, the White Sox manager, came out and said, "Hey, can you guys get together and maybe not review this replay wise, but put your heads together, the four-man crew."
Because that's not a reviewable.
It's not a reviewable play, but I guess apparently as a manager, you have the right to say, "Hey, can you guys consult your I don't know which umpire called it, whether it was the home plate umpire. Jerry Davis was the crew chief. I believe he was at third." Mm-hmm. And it was like almost two parallel things going on because you had the missed balk maybe in the fifth inning, then the balk getting overturned against the Twins.
Because Davis was the one who threw Glenn out, right?
Davis was the one who threw Glenn out, but that had to do more with what Glenn had mentioned to Davis. Apparently, the quotes were sometimes, he asked him about Shields not stopping, and that Davis had come back with what he thought was an insulting quote, an insulting, sarcastic line at me. That ended, and I went to the dugout. Nothing said. I came out. Nothing said, which wasn't going to be. I thought there was. Oh, he basically said next inning to Davis, "I thought that was a horse blank thing that you told me." In other words, your sarcasm I did not appreciate. So then it becomes, is horse bleep profanity? Well, I believe it is because we're bleeping out the portion that we
and
need.
It's all about tone and the way it's directed.
And it's like you're the third base coach. He's the third base umpire, and he's the crew chief. He's been around a while.
And there could be a history between those two?
I don't think there's a history. I mean, Gene Glenn, Berardino pointed out of this in his story, had not been tossed from any game in the major league since 2001. And he had not, that's 17 years. He'd never been tossed. And Gene Glenn is one of the most easygoing guys you'll ever meet in that dugout.
I just believe, this is my personal belief, that all coaches and officials and managers of every sport should be mic'd up because I just want to hear these conversations.
I do too. Well, I just want to hear them. Did you see what got leaked out from a couple years ago on Terry Collins?
Oh yeah,
and,
it was great.
Was it Tim Timmons? I can't think of the
What was the name of the umpire, Reavers?
No, it wasn't
Terry
Tim
Collins
Timmons.
thing?
It was.
He's listening to sound. We have the coach from last night. He's just previewing it to make sure there's no cursing in it.
I got to make sure.
Gene Glenn? You had him mic'd?
No, but somebody shoved a mic in his face after the game, and we have.
Oh,
the
Glenn.
audio. Yeah. And
not even Molitor.
It's Molitor.
Oh, Molitor.
We have the other.
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
I was looking at Molitor.
Gene Glenn. Yeah, Gene Glenn was interviewed last night.
The Molitor sound is boring, but the Glenn stuff is pretty good.
Were the boys playing it this morning or something, Kenny?
Dave played
when
it.
I asked him about Shields not stopping, he had just came back with a very, I thought, an insulting, sarcastic line to me. That ended, I went in the dugout, nothing said. I came out, nothing said, which I wasn't going to say anything. And then when Rosario got on third, I just walked up to Rosario, and then Jerry ended up there, and I just told him, I said, I thought that was a horse thing you said to me last inning.
There you go.
The conversation started, and as we started to separate, I said, well, think whatever you want. I still think it was a horse thing you said. he threw me. Well, at that point, I didn't care. Then I said whatever I wanted to say. I was already thrown out, but I didn't swear at him or cuss or anything before it, unless horse in today's world is cussing.
Oh, Gene!
Bravo.
Gene doesn't think horse bleep is cussing?
Pride of Waseca right there, man.
Gene
love that
We're
stuff.
getting all politically correct now because horse bleep is not profanity? I believe horse bleep is profanity.
Yes.
I mean, the back end of that word is profanity.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we can discuss this when we come back at some point. But this is Brian Murphy in for Patrick Reusse on Sports Talk here, 1500 ESPN.
Now we're going to head out east and get the Your Money Now report, courtesy of our friends down in Owatonna, Minnesota at Federated Insurance. Speaking of horse bleep, here's Bruce Vail with Your Money Now.
Yeah, great. Now I got to edit my script. Hold on a minute here. I got to take a couple words out. Stocks were higher at the market close today. Investors were weighing uncertainty over trade policy, but they did send the Dow Jones Industrial Average up 98 points to 24,216. The Nasdaq Composite rose 58 points, and the S&P 500 gained 16. The maker of Jack Daniel's whiskey is dropping its long-running sponsorship of Alaska's 1,000-mile Iditarod dog sled race. The action by Brown-Forman follows a tough year for race organizers who have faced financial hardships, the loss of other sponsors, and the first-ever dog doping scandal. Jack Daniel's said it has decided to shift most of its marketing efforts to a partnership with the NBA. More than 30 consumer groups have sent letters to the Federal Trade Commission asking the agency to investigate Facebook and Google and force those companies to implement more clear privacy settings. The groups allege that the two internet giants purposely designed their apps to confuse users into giving up personal information. I'm Bruce Vail with Your Money Now on 1500 ESPN.
Okay, Bruce, we thank you very much. You can go now. We'll talk again tomorrow. Checking traffic here. Things are pretty busy at this point. This report sponsored by Jersey Mike Subs. Eastbound 694, for instance, just gross between 100 and 35W. You're looking at least 20 minutes there. The westbound side of 694, you're plugging up. Hold on, right around Highway 65, riding the brakes over to 100. If you're rolling between the downtowns, westbound 94 at 20 minutes, eastbound between is a 12-minute drive. The sub above difference is substantial. After all, the Giant got its name for a reason. It ain't little. Jersey Mike's be a sub above. Thick and 76 tonight, then hot, soggy, and...
Another troubling and sad day in American life. We have a mass shooting out of Annapolis, Maryland. John Hyde, I assume you got an update on that story?
Yes, I'll have that for you right after we'll do some sports headlines. Get right to that. Thanks, Murph. It's sunny and 85 degrees. One Zip Twins right now. They do have the bases loaded, though, and, one Zip Twins, as I said, after 6.5. Logan Morrison with a home run, a solo shot for the lead.
And Robbie Grossman just lined into a double play.
Bases loaded double play.
There you
Nice
go.
job, Robbie. Great
Who
job.
got doubled off?
Who was that? It's
Adrianza, maybe?
Maybe.
Not sure. We also know now who will start Saturday against the Cubs for the Twins. Fernando Romero, of course, sent down last weekend. And lefty Alberto Mejia will return from Rochester to make the start. He did start 21 games for the Twins last year. News notes from today, what Murph was talking about. Multiple people shot today at a newspaper in Annapolis, Maryland, with a witness saying a single gunman fired into the newsroom. There are reports that 4 have been killed, but there is no official word of that yet. A reporter at the Capital Gazette tweeted that a single individual shot multiple people. And Phil Davis, who covers business and politics for the newspaper, tweeted that the gunman shot through the glass door to the office and opened fire on multiple employees. And Arundel County Police Department spokesman Mark Leminski, said officers were looking in the building where the shooting was reported. Another police spokesperson, Lieutenant Ryan Forsure, said at an afternoon news conference, "We did have an active shooter situation inside that building. Did have injuries. I can't give you the extent of those injuries at this point." He added, "Once the building is secure, we'll give you more information whether the suspect is in custody, although reports say there is one person in custody." Spokeswoman for a hospital near the newspaper said 2 patients had arrived there, but she didn't know their condition. So we'll update you on that, obviously, as more info comes in. Also breaking news here in Minnesota. The Public Utilities Commission today unanimously approving a certificate of need for the Enbridge Energy Line 3 oil pipeline, with commissioners reasoning their hands were tied by limits to their authority over oil transportation. A decision on the pipeline's route is still pending. Deliberations were tense and emotional during that meeting today. The chair of the Public Utilities Commission, Nancy Lang, broke down at one point.
Oh, I was going to ask in jest, did somebody cry?
Yes, they did.
Wow.
She broke down at one point, Kenny grabbing a handful of tissues and expressing how conflicted she was about allowing fossil fuels to cross the state for decades to come.
Wow. She cried. Was there somebody there to console her?
Well, they gave her the tissues. They said, here, have some tissues.
Maybe give her a sedative?
If Pat was sitting next to her, he'd say, do you need us to call you an ambulance? Like he did to the gal at the movie.
Of course. Wow.
The charges against one of those two parents charged in connection to a weapons seizure in Vadnais Heights in March have been dropped, according to court records. Remember this story? Christopher Stowe had previously been charged with 2 felony counts of possession of a machine gun or short-barreled shotgun, as well as a misdemeanor count of negligent storage of firearms. He pleaded not guilty in April. Court records confirm the charges against Stowe were dismissed yesterday. Stowe's wife, Lisa Stowe, still faces a negligent storage of firearms charge. The Stowes were arrested after authorities seized some weapons at their home. It occurred after authorities say the Stowes' 13-year-old son threatened a classmate at school. The 13-year-old was also charged with threats of violence. A weird story from the border. U.S. Customs and Border Patrol agents seized nearly 900 counterfeit coolers at the port of entry.
In this state?
Uh-huh. Agency said the coolers were bound for Minneapolis. They said the coolers had built-in stereo systems, but they had counterfeit markings on them. They were valued at more than $170,000. Coolers were in a rail container bound for Minneapolis.
How would they know to even look for something like that?
Oh, somebody tipped them off, right? Somebody had to.
Anybody got a cooler with a stereo built in?
No, that's too much. That's too much nonsense.
I just want the ice to not melt. That's all I can ask.
That's all we need, right there, right there. And I hear the Yeti is the best, and there's also a knockoff of the Yeti that's about half the price that is just as good. You spend about half that money. Well, you got one?
I have one with a stereo in it, and it fell off the back of a pontoon at a bachelor party.
Whoops.
It's sitting in the bottom of Cannon Lake if anybody finds it.
Well, good. You deserve that.
I'm blahing away, and he's looking down. His face is getting red. His hand slowly going up. Yeah. Full disclosure.
Totally had one. My brother had one that you could drive. Remember those? They had the handlebars.
Whatever possessed you guys to spend that much on a cooler?
Redneck parties, baby.
Hey,
That's what we do.
I had a friend who had the Yeti and came in handy over Memorial Day weekend. It did not lose a cube of ice.
Fantastic
for the entire weekend.
Really?
But it cost $400. So I'm sorry.
I know a guy that owns a hardware stores, so he got me a deal on one. But they're great coolers. But they are spendy.
There is a brand out there, Murph, that it's not the Yeti brand, but I've been told they're just as good and they're half the price.
Oh, okay. Kind of like Hydrox as opposed to Oreos, or
It's the same thing.
Yeah,
they're the Hydrox cookie. Yeah. By the way, Kenny, just to answer your other question, if you have the cooler with the handlebars and the wheels and go stooling around the campground, you are the coolest guy ever on a Saturday night.
Are you sure about that? Are they laughing?
That's a pretty subjective thing to say.
They're laughing with me.
you? Yeah. Are you sure about that?
I think so. Look at him taking another round of that cooler.
Can you do donuts with it?
Oh, yeah.
I wonder if you could get pulled over for drunk driving.
Oh yeah, you could. You can do it on a rider mower. You probably should on a cooler.
We wondered that same thing, and we thought as long as we're on dirt at the campground, we're fine. But if we go on blacktop, we might be in trouble.
You need a sober driver for your cooler. Drive me to the bathroom, you little bastard.
A woman who drove nearly 20 miles with her ex-boyfriend clinging to the hood of her speeding car has been arrested on a negligence connection in Florida.
I want to meet her. Wow.
She has a cooler that she drives.
No fury like a woman scorned.
What a mess.
24-year-old Patricia Isidore was collared for exposing 22-year-old Junior Francis to risk of injury or death. According to a complaint affidavit, Isidore and Francis had a dispute this past Sunday as Isidore began to depart a residence in Lauderhill in a 2010 Mercedes registered to both parties. In an attempt to keep Isidore from leaving, Francis climbed onto the auto's hood. Undeterred by the man atop the car, Isidore began driving on local roads that led her to Interstate 95.
Oh, God. Boy.
Where she pulled into the express lane at speed consistent with other traffic.
That a girl.
A fellow motorist recorded Francis holding on for dear life as the Mercedes approached 70 miles an hour.
Wow.
His terrifying ride ended when Isidore pulled up to an intersection where they were subsequently contacted by Broward County Sheriff's Office deputies. Isidore, investigators alleged, had multiple opportunities to stop the car and call 911, but instead willfully put the victim in danger by driving the vehicle for a distance of about 19 miles.
19 miles! That's like a half hour.
And he held on the whole way.
Did she turn the wipers on to slap him in the face?
Man, don't make her mad.
He did. He was able, while the car was driving, I didn't bring that part of the story, but he was able to call 911.
Oh!
And
On the hood, on the phone.
hood, holding on.
One hand then.
And he said, hey, and he, of course.
Yeah, how do you explain
They
that?
tried to figure out where he was, and they finally did from his phone call. So,
But if anybody should be able to read the room, it's him. He should have known she was
capable of doing this.
I
yes.
say we turn her loose. She needs to be out in society among all of us.
okay, fair enough.
All right, thank you, John.
You bet.
All right, we'll be back with more of Sports Talk right after this.
After extensive research, I discovered the cooler that I was speaking of. Just like the Yeti, half the price. It's RTIC. I believe you can only order them, but I've been told they're wonderful coolers.
RTIC.
RTIC. Yep. Johnny?
A Florida woman has finished up a more than 100-mile voyage from Cuba to the Florida Keys on a stand-up paddleboard.
What a nerd.
Victoria Burgess arrived in Key West yesterday, paddling across the Florida Straits in just under 28 hours.
Wow.
Now, you diss her compared to the lunatic who had the boyfriend on the hood?
I know, I'm a mess. What? How? Did she stand up the whole time? Man.
I don't think you could sit on those.
That's pretty ballsy.
Burgess is believed to be the first woman to make the trip from Cuba to the Keys on a stand-up paddleboard. She's 34. She said she wanted to set a record and serve as inspiration to others to accomplish their goals. She says she hopes to have the feat sanctioned by Guinness World Records. She's a fire inspector for Pompano Beach. Previously served as a firefighter and paramedic.
You suppose all the Cubans that came across in those makeshift life rafts that they built out of raincoats, they're just kicking themselves right now?
All we needed was a paddle
All
boat.
they needed was that.
Raincoats. I think you're confusing the Alcatraz guys, aren't you?
Yeah, totally.
Didn't they have the old Chevys that they tried to turn into boats?
They did, yes. A couple of them turned cars into boats.
Yeah, it's imagine metal, not thinking.
I can't believe how often this happens. Authorities say a woman drove drunk to a New Jersey police station to pick up a man who had been charged with drunken driving.
Oh, this happont quite often.
Oh, yeah, it's about a dozen times a year.
I'll go get him. It's my turn.
On my way. I'm gonna pick 'em up.
Mount Olive police say 49-year-old Melissa Vitale of Rockaway, New Jersey, appeared impaired when she arrived at the station. She was soon charged with drunken driving after she failed all their sobriety tests. Authorities say 45-year-old Robert Wolf of Washington had called her and asked her to pick him up after he had been charged with drunken driving. Wolf had been arrested after he made an illegal turn.
Who did she call then?
Ooh, good point.
Probably
call
him.
Marcia.
She probably tried to call him.
Yeah. Marcia's still at the bar.
Right. I've never been in a position where I've had to call or be called. I'm wondering, when you call somebody to pick you up, when you're at the police station, Chris, do they make the driver come in? Can't you just wait in the car out front?
I mean,
It's not a drive-through. You got to go sign some papers, I think.
But what I was going to ask is, what if you walked there to go pick up your friend? Or do you have to drive them home?
And what the hell's wrong with Uber?
You can walk and drink.
Just tell the loser to call an Uber.
Well, but the problem is if you're in Medford, Minnesota, they don't have Uber down there.
Well, he got some doofus in his four-wheeler.
That's true.
What address do you put in? Jail cell?
Right.
Yeah, jail.
Steele County Prison.
If you're way out in the middle of nowhere, you could probably call you an Uber. It's probably going to cost you about $2,000.
No, you know what you do out in the middle of nowhere? You call yourself a Yeti.
Yes. Get off that cooler and get here.
In Great Britain, a man has been jailed after, misusing the 999. That's the same as our 911. 58-year-old Donald Robertson first reported a fake fire call. Then he also claimed to be capsized or under a capsized canoe when he called 911. What actually happened was he was sitting in his house and he was very intoxicated.
Of course. Once again.
Of course.
Cops, fire crews, and paramedics were sent out when he called and said he was drowning in the River Tay. The city sheriff told the court checks on the mobile number led to the accuser's apartment. We got there. He was heavily intoxicated.
Sitting on his couch, probably.
Why did he do this? Is there an explanation?
Just that he was heavily intoxicated.
Drunk and bored.
The whole thing cost taxpayers in Great Britain the equivalent of about $8,000. So he has been thrown in jail for a week. Police in Wisconsin, Madison, say a man's plan to take videos up the skirts of women was thwarted when his shoe camera exploded.
And half his foot went with it.
I'm seeing one of those old camcorders from the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
Duct tape to his shoe.
And a battery pack on his hip.
Totally.
Goes up to his knee.
Hold still a second, ma'am.
Gross. It's kind of a weird story. Madison Police Chief Mike Koval.
Kind of a weird story.
Well, it gets weirder, though.
Oh, okay.
Chief of Madison, Mike Koval, said in his daily blog, the 32-year-old man tried to turn himself into police on Tuesday. Why? They didn't know. They never got that far. The man wasn't arrested because there wasn't any crime, because before he could take any video, the camera's battery fizzled and exploded while it was on his foot.
No evidence.
The chief said, yes, the man's foot was injured. The chief added the man was counseled on his actions and released because no video was taken. They do say the investigation is continuing, but they expect no charges.
Well, he felt guilty about it then.
Boy, yeah, I guess.
How's his foot?
He'll be okay.
Did he
He'll be all right.
Did he get a new camera? Was it under warranty? Does he have a website?
Oh, gross.
a website.
MyShoeCam.com.
Yuck, stop it. How could you think that?
From the You Had One job category, a quick-moving wildfire that ravaged a North Florida coastal community and destroyed 36 homes last weekend was sparked by a controlled burn conducted by state-hired contractors.
Oh, oops.
Ag Commissioner Adam Putnam said an investigation by his office eliminated all possible causes, including lightning, arson, or an accidental fire. Fire broke out late Sunday in East Point, which is near the town of Apalachicola in Florida's Panhandle. Authorities evacuated the area. Nobody died, luckily, as a result of the fire, but it left devastation in its wake for local residents who lost everything.
Wow.
The fire burned more than 800 acres. Officials said they were suspending the practice of controlled burns statewide while they investigate what happened. Controlled burns, of course, are used as a tool to manage forests, which includes burning away underbrush to lessen the danger of future wildfires. Doug Williams, the owner of Wildland Service, told the Tallahassee Democrat he had not been contacted by state officials. He did not know that Putnam said investigators had determined his company was the one responsible for the wildfire.
Well, that should be now called an uncontrolled fire.
Yes, uncontrolled burn, right.
Good point.
How much is this costing him? Are they fining him?
They haven't said yet. They haven't even charged him yet, so the charges probably still are pending.
Good luck, fellow.
And in Riddle, Oregon, Richard Nelson won the lottery a week before he was set to retire, and he'll now get $1,000 per week for life.
That's not bad.
Well, how old is he?
$1,000 a week, I'd take it.
How old is he?
Well, he's retiring. It doesn't say, so I'm assuming he's, in his 60s. Let's say 60s.
Guys retiring in their 60s, John?
Well,
They used to.
Some.
That was hurtful, Chris.
That really was. You're a bastard, Chris. You're a bastard. I hate you. Nelson says he regularly plays.
I
the
am
Win
still
for Life
working.
game.
I am on a train.
Nelson says he'll continue to play the Win for Life game and was thankful that it happened at this time.
Before we break, speaking of the old man, when are you guys going to have him on?
440.
And does he expect to be in Chicago by then?
I think he's just getting into Madison. No, I don't know that.
God, I thought you were serious.
No.
When did he leave? When did he leave?
Be right.
Is he still on the train?
Well, I would assume so. I haven't seen a Twitter
thinking
It
update.
was
is.
early this morning he left, right?
I did.
Oh, yeah, that's a good 10 hours.
Please, God, let there be a delay so like a freight train had to pass them by.
I warned him yesterday. I did that ride, and
Yeah,
I
it's
warned
not.
him.
It's
but-
not. It's
No,
not crisp. It's not crisp.
No.
All right. Well, we'll be back with more the wrap up sports talk right after this. I can't believe Johnny Height missed this one from the Star Tribune. This is a beautiful headline.
All right.
A 95-year-old Maine man was working on his deck when a rabid fox bit him. so he beat it to death with a wooden plank.
Oh, my God.
Police say Robert Galen was working on his deck Monday when he encountered the 10-pound fox. The fox bit Galen's foot, but he didn't break the skin. He says he picked up a wooden plank when he saw the fox looking at him right in the eye.
Oh.
Galen says it took him about 10 minutes to beat the fox to death, and he injured his back after falling during the struggle. Animal control officials tested the animal and found it had rabies. Galen says he didn't contract the virus. That's one heck of a 95-year-old there.
Holy cow.
He looked him right in the eye. He saw fear.
Not today.
Not today, Fox. That'll wrap up sports talk. Of course, I'll be back now filling in for Reusse on the ride. We'll get a hold of him at 4:40 on his train ride to Chicago. This is Brian Murphy in on 1500 ESPN.